We are keeping one promise after another, and frankly, the people are really happy about it. They see what's happening.
President Trump last night in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, trumpeting his record in his first 100 days in office. And I'm choked up about it. Time now for our Sunday group. The head of Heritage Action for America, Michael Needham, Fox News political analyst and author of We the People, now in paperback, Juan Williams, former Democratic Congresswoman Donna Edwards, and Rich Lowry, editor of the National Review. Well, Rich, as a traditional conservative, I think it's fair to say you were pretty concerned ahead of time about Donald Trump. For all the theatrics, and tell me if you think I'm wrong on this, isn't the real story of these 100 days that on taxes and spending and the cabinet and foreign policy, he's been a pretty conventional Republican conservative?
I think that's exactly right. If you were living on another planet, and I know Juan probably thinks he's been living on another planet for a lot of these 100 days, and you weren't getting any of the news about the tweets or the other controversies, you were just hearing about substantive things that have happened, you would think this is a fairly conventional Republican administration doing fairly conventional Republican things.
And does that make you happy?
Yeah, happier than I expected. And look, it's not the greatest 100 days ever, as President Trump likes to portray it, but Gorsuch was a home run. He's gotten significant early progress on the border, where illegal crossings are down, and he's begun the deregulatory rollback. The big incomplete, though, Chris, is on Capitol Hill, where he still could get health care reform and tax reform, but he also could get shut out on both, although I think it's likelier that he gets taxes rather than health care.
Congresswoman Edwards, how do you assess these first 100 days?
Well, it feels like 100,000, but I think he's been beaten back on immigration in the courts. He hasn't had a significant legislative achievement. Health care has gone down twice, and it's still a disaster. And, you know, this tax plan is not really a tax plan. It's a set of tax bullets. So I think, you know, there's a D- going on this in this administration so far.
Well, that's better than Chuck Schumer, who gave him a straight F. So.
Well, you get a plus for signing your name.
Okay, there you go. The big news this week, as the Congresswoman mentioned, was that the White House came out, not with really a plan, but an outline, bullet points of the president's tax reform plan. Here's what candidate Trump and Treasury Secretary Mnuchin had to say about the plan before they took office.
Barack Obama has doubled during his fairly short period of years. He's doubled our national debt, doubled it. It's going to be close to $20 trillion when he leaves, $20 trillion. So we have to get rid of at least a good portion of that.
Now, on the upper class, we're going to simplify it. We're not going to have a tax cut for the upper class.
But, Michael, even with just this bare bones outline, isn't it pretty clear that this plan will add trillions of dollars to the national debt, contrary to what candidate Trump said, and that it would mean a substantial tax break for the upper income people?
Well, we don't have a ballooning national debt because we don't tax enough. Our tax rates, the percentage of the economy taken by taxes, is well above the historic norm. And the only way we're going to get out of the debt problems that our nation has is, first, we need to do entitlement reform, and it's good to see the
president's not doing it.
But seemingly moving towards the direction of maybe doing something. And we need to grow the economy. And that's why what's so exciting about what he's done in the first 100 days is, one, he's come out with this big, bold tax reform plan, and two, he's put out with a great plan and real action to roll back the regulatory state using the Congressional Review Act 13 times.
Wouldn't you agree that this plan would add trillions to the national debt?
There's trillions being added to the national debt because we are spending way too much.
You're not answering my question.
Sure, this plan.
I mean, I'm not saying, you know, you could argue that he needs spending cuts as well, but would you agree that this cut, with all the cuts in revenue, is going to add trillions to the debt?
What this plan would do is it would move revenues from where they are today, approaching 20% of GDP, back to the historic post-World War II norm, which is 18.5%. And I love the conversation you had with Chuck Schumer about tax cuts for the wealthy and what will this do here. I thought you made a great point about the standard deduction. But Chuck Schumer from New York State mentioned the state and local tax deduction. 88% of the benefit from the state and local tax deduction goes to people who make over $100,000. It is a subsidy from all of us around the country to states like New York that have terrible fiscal policies, and it's a subsidy that overwhelmingly, 88%, goes to people making over $100,000. So I think Chuck Schumer, if he wants to be, a class warfare populist, should join in President Trump and and say, let's get rid of this ridiculous tax deduction for citizens in New York and New Jersey.
Fair enough. We asked you for questions for the panel, and we got a bunch on this issue of President Trump's tax cuts. And there was a lot of concern about adding to the national debt. Murat Turkson tweeted this: "What will it do to the deficit?" And here is Chuck's tweet: "Where are the budget cuts," to Michael's point, "to match the reduced revenue?" Juan, how do you answer them, and what do you make of the White House contention that between economic growth and the reduction of some of the loopholes, closing the loopholes and deductions, that this tax cut will pay for itself?
Well, it's all speculative at this point. I mean, this is all conjecture. You know, when you ask people, even on the conservative side, like the Tax Foundation people, they say this will add $4 to $6 trillion over the course of its life, 10 years, let's say, to the budget debt. So, I mean, to me, I listen and because I want to be sensitive to the idea, because I think most Americans would like to pay less tax and think that we should simplify a very complex tax code. But what's striking here in Washington is that the people who were these loud deficit screeching hawks are now crickets, silence, Chris, nothing to say. I mean, what is going on here? You look at the idea of doing away with the estate tax, the alternative minimum tax. This is written by Goldman Sachs for Goldman Sachs in the White House by Mr. Trump, who said, I'm going to drain the swamp. I'm going to really look out for blue-collar workers in states that elected me in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Those folks are getting hosed by this deal. And somehow Republicans who previously would have, especially under Obama, spending out of control, silent.
Well, we don't like silence. Michael, I have to ask you about one other subject before we end this segment. I want to ask you about the Heritage Foundation that you're associated with. There are a lot of stories out that Jim DeMint, the head of the Heritage Foundation, is going to be out, and that Steve Bannon may become the new head, that this is going to be his safety net as he is forced out of the White House. What can you tell us?
That there's a lot of speculation and rumor in the media that never misses a chance to divide and attack conservatives. Jim DeMint is a patriot. He has had a courageous career in Washington, and the country and the conservative movement are far better because of that. And the Heritage Foundation is an institution that is committed to formulating and promoting conservative policies, and that is not going to change.
But is DeMint out? I mean, the story that the board wants him out.
I don't know. There's a lot of speculation, rumor, and I'm not going to add to the speculation and rumor.
And Steve Bannon?
There's a lot of speculation and rumor, and I'm not going to add to the speculation and rumor.
Stop. Leave the man alone.
We live in speculation and rumor. All right, pal, we have to take a break here. That was a definite maybe.